Welcome to another week of wonderful book review. This is the Joy Book Club. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and on this show, we bring books to life. That's what we do. And over the course of this hour, we're going to do exactly that. Right before I introduce my guests to you, how about we find out what book we're reviewing this week? It is called Rootless. Rootless. And it's by one of our very own. She's a Ghanaian British author. Called Krystle Zara-Appiah. This is a very moving book. But before I cross over to my guest, or before I actually tell you a bit more about the book, let me introduce the guest to you joining me today. We have Letitia Opong. She's an author herself. Her nom de plume, or publisher's name, if you like. Her pen name is Ama Pomar. We also have joining the conversation Paul Honkani. Lady, gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, so Letitia, for you, it's been years of book review. We go way back. It's good to have you. I just want to add that Letitia herself is an author. Her book, what's the title again?
A Time to Part.
A Time to Pass, which I have reviewed before, actually won the 2018 first prize at the Ghana Association of Writers Awards. She has a new book out that we shall be reviewing. Should I tease them with it?
Go ahead.
Okay. A Time to...
The Ones We Find.
The Ones We Find. Yeah, that's the title. I keep mixing the first and the second one. The Ones We Find. She joins the conversation. And then we have Paul Honkani. But because this is all new, tell us a bit about yourself. I'll start with you, Letitia.
Okay, as you said, I'm Letitia, writing under the pen name Ama Pomar. Under Letitia, I'm an engineer working with General Electric. I live in Accra. As Ama Pomar, I've authored 2 books. I dabble in the mystery and thriller genres. I'm working on my 3rd one. Hopefully, I get to review that one also here.
Okay, interesting stuff. You're not telling them about the romantic tone that always finds its way into your works.
Oh,
but
you're surprised.
When we review your any of your works, we'll get there. Paul Honkani also joins the conversation. Paul, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, I am Paul Honkani, an author, a poet, a philosopher, and a researcher. I'm also a student in international law, currently pursuing an LLM in international law.
Okay, where? At the University of Ghana?
No, Robert Gordon University, Scotland.
Okay, good to have you. So yeah, we have them, an engineer, a lawyer figure, and all of that, student of the law. And now we can, before we get into this, I'm also going to give you my literary fun fact. I do that every week, and this week will be none too different. I'm going to tell you something interesting. Now, when creativity knocks on your door, what do? Well, answer the call or answer that knock. That's exactly what J.K. Rowling did. And if the name rings a bell, it is because you know her, you've heard about her, maybe not read her books, but seen the movies. Now, J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter series, was ready when inspiration knocked on her door. While on a plane, she was flying. Rowling came up with the names for the famous houses of Hogwarts, and she wrote them down on a motion sickness bag. So, when inspiration calls, will you be there to give an answer? That's my literary fun fact for you. But let's get back to the book for today, Rootless by Krystle Zara-Appiah. This is a wonderful book. I prefer that you get a copy. But let's start with the blurb of the book. What is this book about? Tell us a bit about it. The blurb says it all.
Sure thing. Teenagers Efe and Sam first meet in London in the 1990s.
Right.
Years later, the best friends are married. Their love story couldn't seem more perfect. But Sam wants to start a family, while Efe wants to be free to focus on her dreams. Then an unplanned pregnancy forces them to confront just how radically different they want their lives to be. Now, Efe and Sam must discover if what they really want is still each other. That's it. Yeah.
And maybe you might add what is at the end, because it also gives a picture of what to expect.
All right. It's a heart-rending love story about a British-Ghanaian marriage in crisis. Rootless asks, what happens when 2 people in love want completely different things? And what do you do if you have to choose between your dreams and someone else's?
Okay, so now that we have the thrust of the story, but this is just a minuscule form of it, let's also hear a little bit about the author. Paul, would you do us the honors?
Certainly, Ben. Krystle Zara-Appiah is a British Ghanaian writer, editor, and screenwriter based in London. She has a degree in literature and creative writing from the University of Kent. In 2020, she was one of the 40 writers selected for the London Library's Emerging Writers Program. Rootless is her debut novel.
All right. And so we're about to get into all of that. Let me also mention that Paul Honkani is a member of the Between the Covers group. It's a reading group, and he actually joins us from that group. Let's talk about the themes in this book. We can talk about style, characters, and all of that. Or maybe we should start with characters, right? Who was your favorite character, or who were your favorite characters?
To begin with, Ben, my favorite character was and still is Efe.
Efe?
Yes.
Okay.
Efe.
Samson's wife.
Samson's wife.
Okay.
Yeah, that is.
And why?
Yeah, that is because she technically played, the devil's advocate. She was used as, a scapegoat. She played the dirty game in the entire story.
Really?
Yes, the entire story was based on her fabric. She did a lot of sacrifice, and I felt this story wouldn't have been complete without her. So that makes her the favorite character.
So she's your foremost figure.
Certainly.
The protagonist, basically,
Certainly,
in the work.
yeah.
Okay, who would be your favorite character?
I related to Efe, but my favorite is Sam. I'm a sucker for vulnerable male characters, and I think Sam...
Vulnerable male characters?
Yes. Sam didn't come in all macho, like I'm the man, I need to take control of everything. He was very vulnerable, even though he messed up a lot. He was honest about his failings, and he apologized when he had to apologize, and he opened up to Efe about the things in his past. And so throughout all the things that he did, I understood where he was coming from. So yeah, he was my favorite.
Okay, interesting dynamics at play. Let's look at themes and styles. What struck you? I'll start with you this time. Themes, style. Which are the themes? I mean, at a point, it's not so glaring, but there's even the theme of racism at a point when the two girls were, Efe and her sister were little, much more little, in London and all of that. So there are subtle elements, but what are the major themes for you?
Can I go with childbirth? I think childbirth is what that stood out.
And the strains of saying.
Yes. So it's in our society, it's a given that anybody who wants to get married, that's the procedure. Get married, have kids, at least 2, and society keeps asking for more. But Efe was very open about her stance. So that was, it wasn't a shock, but it was a delight to see it in a work of fiction. I haven't seen that a lot. Every time everybody's aspiring to have children, but I loved how it was handled, the difficulties associated with it from her family side, from her spouse, and ultimately the choices that she made. Yeah, those were good for me. Okay.
For you, which themes would you go to?
Yeah, Ben, I actually think this book speaks to the soul. It is a novel that cuts across a lot of predicaments in life. So to begin with, I look at the expectations parents always have on their children. I also look at the pressure we exert on diasporans as Ghanaians. I also look at the issue of, the individual doing what he or she likes. In fact, Ben, I would actually want to, this is how I project it. I see the book to speak to different genres of people. So 1, to the individual as a person, 2, to the family as a unit, and 3, to the nation as a whole. And the themes in here are the things I mentioned. The expectations the parents always have on our kids, the pressure we exert on our diasporans, societal norms that we feel should be fulfilled by some persons. And then aspects of gossip. There's a whole lot of gossip, and then in this. To me, it even goes beyond love. So basically, those are some of the
interesting themes, and we'll be getting into some of them as we talk about read economics, don't read art, read science. And it's happened to some of us, maybe not from parents. I remember back then, once you had a certain aggregate, they naturally gave you, when in fact I had to fight my way through. Not because my parent wanted, but the school itself, there were scenarios we had to go through. But let's start from the very start. And I loved the Ghanaian proverb that started the book. Marriage is like a groundnut. You have to crack it to see what's inside. Imagine a groundnut. Then you know what's in there, whether it's rotten or not. So let's start with reading. And we'll be sharing out the readings as we move on. I'll read from pages 3 to 4. 5 months before, May 2016. Sam knows he is too late even as he sprints back from the station. He runs the whole way, phone clenched in his fist, the early afternoon sun at his back. His lungs are seasoned in his chest by the time he crashes into the stairwell. He takes the stairs 2 at a time and, panting loudly, calls Efe's name as he staggers into the flat. Nothing is out of place. Maybe he's overreacting. She has to be here somewhere, he thinks, as he moves from room to room, peers around corners behind the bathroom door. He throws open the airing cupboard and stares at the Hoover and the dust-covered pots of paint. The last room he checks is their bedroom. The door sits open and ominous at the end of the hall. Here he finds gaps everywhere. Bare hangers, 3 pairs of shoes gone, a drawer cracked open as if she had left in a hurry, her favorite necklace glinting on the dresser. Sam doubles over. Suddenly the air is warm and sludgy. The room swims. He feels like a small child, waking up groggy and alone in a ghost-filled house. He checks his phone again, scans through the stream of messages he's fired out, but there's still no reply from Efe. All his calls go to voicemail. The £1,300 payment to British Airways is still pending. Then he thinks of Olivia and panic floods his system anew. He fumbles with his mobile, calls the childminder and mutters, "Pick up, pick up, pick up," until she does. "Hello? Is Olivia there?" Sam says. "Of course. Is everything, oh, let me speak to her," he interrupts. He goes on to talk to Olivia, and then it continues from there. But what is happening? From the initial stage, you see a man who is desperate, but something is totally wrong. What is wrong, Letitia?
First of all, great opening. The suspense is unparalleled, yeah. So Sam has come home to find that his wife is gone, and it turns out that she has gotten on a plane and she has gone back to her home in Ghana. Do you want us to go on to why?
And yes. That is, so she's just, but Paul, let's clarify this. Mm-hmm. Samson, or Sam, as he's mostly called, and Efe are married.
Yep.
They have a child, Olivia, whom they call Liv. And all of a sudden, you come back home and your wife, from everything that is going on, because he's also realized that there's been a charge on the ticket, £1,300. She can't be found. What would go through your mind?
Yes, Ben, this even reminds me of a theme I forgot to touch on, which is mental health. If I were Samson, what would go through my mind is, this lady is not of compos mentis. Maybe she's not completely together up there, considering the tone of events, because under normal circumstances, no woman, no mother will leave a child in a desperate condition in which she did to all leave. So I think that there's an element of, mental, for want of better word, retardation here that could have erupted due to several factors. As Letitia said earlier, the story gets heated up right from the beginning. So you see that Sam rushes in. So this should tell you that he actually anticipated something like this, because the manner in which he rushed into the flat and then upon the realization his wife wasn't around, he picked the phone again, thinking the woman would have gone away with Olivia, their daughter. So the story gets heated up right from the beginning. And you would notice that ever since he brought Olivia home from school that day, he tried reaching out and the numbers wasn't going through, and only for him to realize that time had passed gone. Before he looked out, it was around 10 p.m., I guess, and he had just noticed that he hadn't bathed Olivia and she hadn't even had dinner yet. So the story gets heated up from the beginning, and I'm sure as we delve into it, we will go into the merits and demerits of the entire concept.
So this is what has happened. Efe has upped and left, literally poof, into thin air.
Yep.
And it takes him a while before he realizes she's actually gone to Ghana, which is where she's from.
Yep.
And she's with her sister Sewa. He finds this after days of trying to reach her. And it's only because Sewa picks up and then he gets to speak to her briefly, and that's it. But what is Sam dealing with throughout this period? What is he dealing with?
Throughout the time when his wife is gone, I think Sam is going over every conversation he's had with his wife, every incident, because there's a lot that happens when he starts to recall.
His father, who has had a stroke, whom she had to take care of.
Yes.
The child, Olivia, and having to deal with her.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in his mind. And I think Sam is being disingenuous, because if you go through everything that's happened, there are signs to what his wife has just done. And so I am surprised later that he is confused that his wife has left. Yeah, but I think Sam is going through everything that he's done up to now and wondering which one of them could have caused his wife to up and leave. Yeah.
So he's basically going through the motions. But let's even go back in time, because it takes us 19 years earlier.
Yeah.
Let's go back in time. How did they even get to meet in the United Kingdom?
Yes, so good. I think this will do our viewers a lot of favor if we give them the genesis of the story. So it turns out that Efe and her sister Sewa are of Ghanaian descent. Their parents are well-to-do. Of course, their mom is a head mistress or head teacher in a renowned secondary school. So it has come to that stage of their lives that they have to go for further education, and their parents think it is good they get a very good education outside the country. And then so they are sent to the United Kingdom to live with their aunt. Aunt Dora is her name. So they are expected to go through their educational, stages in life with their aunt, and then probably have a decent living. Unbeknown to their parents, that is not exactly what the ladies would love to do. So later in the story, you would notice that Sewa, the younger one of the sisters, would end up in Ghana married. Not a very happy marriage, though, but at least a marriage to manage with. And then Efe, the elder one, would also want to find her roots back to Ghana.
Right.
And this even informs the title. You see, as I said earlier, this cuts across all genders, and I could even link it to the individual as a person. I could link it to the family as a unit, and to the country, or the nation as a whole.
Right.
So they've arrived in the UK. They have been received warmly by their aunt, and then they'll be sent to school. So in school, Efe gets to meet her cousin, and called Abby. Well, and then
matters take their natural course from there.
Yes.
So Abby and Nate are in an on and off relationship. It's like, I don't want to mention anything, but off and on, off and on, off and on, like that. And then she meets, Sam for the first time. Just describe it. It was interesting, because even from their first meeting to the cinema and what happened there, and the near rape of Efe, and Sam standing up for her and everything. You remember when they walked home?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that. I think it was written in the stars.
Yeah, I liked how the progression came from that incident of her nearly being raped. So we have a knight in shining armor situation where he's taking her home, and he even has to carry her because she's so spent. And then there's a moment where she's looking at the moon, and all that time they are behaving like they're just friends. And I'm I'm thinking it's so clear. You guys just get on with it. But I think that they've still not realized where they are, but they bask in each other's company. And yeah, I love the friendship and the safety that they found in each other.
There's also the seeming love triangle of Sam, Efe, and Daphne at a point, because Sam and Efe are also a bit on and off. So straight to the point on this one. What is the relationship between this? It's not a ménage à trois, definitely not, but there's something going on. And later we can even talk about Brian also in the picture, and then Sam coming back, and infidelity. All of that is in there. Yeah. Just walk us through what you were thinking through those portions of the book when Efe was swinging between this and that person.
So I tell you what, Ben, I was actually very livid with Efe.
Hey.
Initially, yes.
What has Efe done
from the beginning? Because I thought she was, dishonest in the beginning. Because
how so?
Okay, so for instance, meeting Brian in first place, I thought she and Sam had something prior to meeting Brian, and I was livid at the fact that you can't be seeing two people at the same time.
Was she?
Only to realize. So only to realize later that the relationship between herself and Sam was platonic in character.
Right.
So it wasn't a sexual one. So that actually calmed my nerves. But I mean, growing up in a Ghanaian atmosphere, we take some of these things very critical, like seeing two persons at the same time. So yes, initially I was livid, and I think the writer Krystle Zara-Appiah did a very good job there, because she is able to get you livid with her at a point, and then also probably get you to commensurate with her. So actually, I felt livid, and then later I only got to understand her when it was clear that she and Sam had engaged in a platonic relationship prior. But again, Ben, I tell you what, going back to Sam again after breaking up with Brian simply told me that Efe doesn't actually certainly know what she wants. Okay. And it's the same with the human beings. I think we don't actually even know what we want.
That's a chronic, it's a chronic human sickness, indecisiveness, especially in relationships. Because, sometimes you can have someone give you a tall list. Oh, I want a man who's like this, tall, white teeth, this and that. And then all of a sudden she sees another man who is not even, and all of a sudden, okay. I just realized I was sapiosexual. Now I like his brain and everything. So there's that. But he says he's livid. Are you as livid? And at a point, it makes mention of the fact that she makes out with Sam while she is still with Brian. What did you make of that? Was it indecisiveness, or did she know all through that she wasn't really going anywhere with Brian? And Brian, by the way, was a white guy, and Sam was, black.
I think the first moment that they have where they make out, it's well done, like he said. It doesn't come across as malicious. It's not like there's an intention to cheat on Brian. It's just the progression of the moment where Sam opens up to her, and then whatever happens, happens. But then when I go forward and it's been a year and they're in bed, I'm like, oh, okay, so... Yeah, I was disappointed in Efe, but then I had to readjust my thinking of her, because I was thinking of her in Ghanaian terms, good girl terms with the African parents, but I had to adjust my thinking that she's
a Londoner.
Yeah, she's in a different environment. So I had to understand her, and because of how it's written, you understand what she's doing, but the disappointment really never left.
I want us to talk education now, and sometimes influences, parental influences. When you read 50 to 51, I'll not read too much of it. Yes, Efe says, go on, Sewa. Mami says sternly. And Mami, by the way, is their mother. Tell your sister what you said. Sewa exhales and draws her gaze up from a bowl of cocoa to meet Efe's. She asked about my A-level options, and all I said, textiles. Mami cries. This girl wants to study sewing and cutting fabric. I just said I was considering it as an option. My teacher, hey! Mami claps her hands. What teacher would tell you to be a common seamstress? Am I not a deputy head teacher? Do you think me and your dad worked all these years just so you can throw away your education to sit down and do sewing? like I said, I had this experience where secondary school back then, once you had a certain score or brackets, they wanted you to read science. I didn't want to read science. I am mathematically inclined, but I didn't want to read biology, physics, and the rest. I nearly got, and it wasn't even my parents. The school was, I was like, no, I will not do this. And then when you read a little further, there's talk about Efe not doing well in economics in school. In fact, at a point, she will be expelled from university. She's been thrust into it, and she doesn't like it. What did you make of that? And in context, how that happens to all of us?
I tell you what, Ben, it has also happened to me personally.
Oh, I see.
Yes, prior to joining the faculty to read law, I was a teacher. I taught for almost a decade. I taught science and then mathematics. Not on my personal volition, but my parents are both teachers. So after secondary school, they said,
Jack, for here, you could teach.
You see, but it always turns out that whatever the kid wants to do, he or she will end up doing. It's just those who haven't gathered the courage that will end up doing what they don't like. So it is the other way. Like, I mean, it is this and I mean vice versa. So for instance, there could be someone whose parents are probably not in the literary field, and then the person wants to do something education-wise, and the parents will stumble on the person, and the other way around. So I think it's high time the Ghanaian populace, even Africans, we take into consideration what our kids love to do. It was glaring enough, it was prima facie that these girls were not doing well in the corporate field. They were not. They wanted to be practical. They wanted to. They wanted to deal with their hands. One was in fashion, and then the other was into the art. So it's best we always let them. Let them exhibit their talents, and we encourage them rather than trying to let them do what we want. And one funny thing is that our parents, and it cuts across all generations. Every generation thinks what they do is best. They think they are the best generation. So what was best for Efe and Sewa's parents in decades back would not play very well here. Probably decades back, Efe and Sewa's parents were actually, maybe before you could be who you were in society, you had to have a very good education. You had to be, employed by the government. But times change. We keep on evolving as a human race and even as a society. So I think it's high time parents, even us involved, because what we deem as appropriate now might not be appropriate in 10 years, 20 years to come.
Okay.
So it's good we allow our wards to flow freely, to do what they like. If you do what you love, you see that you actually excel in it. If you
can give them guidance, a guiding nudge, but to dictate to them is something else. And I love this group. There's a girl band. I'll not mention the name of the place, but it's one of these live band places. They are all professionals. Every Wednesday, they are at this place, and you have medical doctors and stuff, and they are coming to play instruments. Yeah, all of them, guitar, one is singing, and they're all professionals. It tells you there was something artistic in them that at some point someone decided, what's the day? But right before we take our
Ben,
break,
Ben too.
Quickly on.
Yes, quickly on. When this happens, we end up having leaders who are mediocre in character, because those like you said, after secondary school, everyone wanted you to do science, because if you are bright enough, you excel in whatever, they think you are for the sciences. And you see a lot of doctors who don't actually even want to do, because it turns out that in Ghana, when you go to do science, everyone wants, most of them, 80% go into medicine, you see. And they were forced into it first because they were bright. They could have been bright. There are people who are multi-talented. There are some people that when you give them mathematics, science, whatever, they can do it. But that doesn't mean that is where they are talented. So in the end, you will end up getting quasi-professionals, professionals who are there and they don't actually know they don't know what it takes to make professionals.
Right before we take our first break, there's this portion where there's the naming ceremony. Do you know what struck me there? The whole bit about, as for Ghana for there, when you tell them 8 o'clock, you should expect 10 o'clock. And that's exactly what happened. Even that, because the timelines are from the 90s all the way into the current period. And that's exactly what happens. I'll be coming back to you, Letitia. But this is where we take our first breather. We're still reviewing Rootless, a wonderful book by Krystle Zara-Appiah. She's Ghanaian British, and we're reviewing this book on the Joy Book Club. We'll be right back after the break. And we're back, and I'm glad to have you. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and this is the Joy Book Club. And we're reviewing today Rootless, in case you just joined us, by Krystle Zara-Appiah. But it's time now for me to give you my word in action, a word I've actually picked from the book to put it in context. And the word is antsy, spelled A-N-T-S-Y. It's informal, it's used informally, it's American slang. And it's used on page 258 of the book. I'll get into that shortly. It's an adjective, and it means very nervous, worried, or unpleasantly excited. Very nervous, worried, or unpleasantly excited. So here are some examples. It was a long drive, and the children started to get antsy, A-N-T-S-Y. Or, I always get antsy about meeting my husband's boss. So if that's the feeling, then the word to use informally is antsy. And here's how it's used in today's book. So when you turn to page 258, the penultimate paragraph, it says, not far from Oxford Street, Efe gets antsy. Not far from Oxford Street, Efe gets antsy. A-N-T-S-Y. If you didn't know, or if you knew, here's a reminder. All right, so let's get back to our guests. Letitia Opong is still here. Paul Honkani is also still here. But from where we left off, so Efe is quite the character. She's not given birth yet at this point. And Sewa, her sister, has actually had a child. But she's also getting ready for Olivia. But before we get into Olivia, you realize that Sam has a good job as a lawyer, right? And then all of a sudden, someday, boom, he's actually won a major case. And then what happens?
He quits his job.
Like, who does that?
Without telling your wife.
But there was a reason.
Still.
Share with us the reason. I know you are. But why did he do it?
Sam has a different passion, which is photography. And he didn't pursue it. All throughout, before that moment, he acts like it's just a part-time thing that he did in school. Just like his wife also has the art that she wants to pursue. But I think at that moment, Sam just realizes that he doesn't want to be stuck in the corporate machine that you described. And so he just lets everything go. Yeah, but I'm surprised when even at that moment, Efe introduces the photography to him, he still shuts it down and then goes back to law.
And at this point, it's even more crucial because there's a child
on the way
in the mix. Yeah. And so she's thinking, yo, how are you going to foot the bills? But to give a proper understanding of this and the toll of childbirth, I'd like us to read, I'll let Paul start, page 169. And then, Letitia, you'll read page 171. But page 169 from the second paragraph to the end.
Okay.
Though, no, actually not to the end, that paragraph. Though the days feel insurmountable, from there.
Though the days feel insurmountable, it's the nights that hit Efe hardest. Nights when Olivia is unconsolable. Every night, Efe hovers just above Olivia's cot, hands trembling and quashing the urge to cry. Naively, she hopes Olivia will soothe herself and go back to sleep. But she always gets louder, nearing the volume. Efe Efe thinks of as siren pitch, a level that conjures up the feeling of a knife serrating skull from scalp. Miraculously, Sam never wakes. She is secretly suspicious he's pretending and wants to elbow him or take the binder open on his chest and fling it across the room. On a few occasions, when he's happened to wake up in the middle of the night, whatever conversation they have always devolves into an argument that she replays on a loop in her mind. Fearful of all the ways Liv has changed them, the gap between them widening.
Okay, I'd like you to hold it there. The gap between them widening. Let's hold it there. And then, Letitia, give us page 171 from start to finish.
Most days, Sam is eager to get home from the legal aid office. He spends his work hours half focused on his ever-increasing caseload, half thinking of Liv, trying to recall her sleeping face from that morning, the way her chubby baby soft legs look when she's sitting on his lap, the way she breaks into a gummy smile whenever he walks into the room. He is in awe of her, a whole person, a family. When Sam finishes up for the day, he heads to a crowded train platform and squeezes into a carriage packed so full with commuters he can feel a stranger's breath at his ear. But he would endure the journey a dozen times over just to spend an evening with his family. He walks home from the station briskly, head lowered. A lazy drizzle falls from a bleak late April sky, and he dips into the nearest supermarket to pick up nappies. Standing in the hallway 15 minutes later, he pulls off his coat, lets a sprinkling of raindrops fall to the floorboards. He plans to take over from Efe so she can have an hour or so to herself, and hopes he's not too late for bath time. He'd like him and Liv to have matching beards made of candy floss scented bubbles, to swaddle her in the yellow hooded towel that makes her look like a duckling. He doesn't make it home in time most nights. He means to, but often finds himself stuck in client meetings or filing urgent injunctions, returning home long after Efe and Olivia have gone to sleep.
Okay, and that's the thrust of it. Two angles. Efe is clearly suffering with Olivia.
Yeah.
This baby will not give any peace. And sometimes she thinks at night, especially when you're trying to get some sleep, and that's when the baby wants to wake up, that Sam is pretending to be asleep because he doesn't want to be bothered. You know that thing where he hears sometimes, oh, wobanu, like,
at night,
did she just wake up and have a baby? Yeah. But on the other hand, you see him here, he means to, but he often finds himself stuck in client meetings or filing urgent injunctions and so on. What do you think, especially for you, childbirth and what it means to be a father, especially for the woman, if the man is not helping enough?
For me, like you said, Sam is full of good intentions, but his execution falls flat for me. I think most fathers hopefully want to be there for their families, they want to support, but they sometimes do not understand the depth of what it takes to be a mother, to have a child with you 24/7, someone who is hanging on your every breath. Whatever you do, you can't turn away for 5 seconds. I did babysitting, and just 10 seconds, the child went for a knife, and I was surprised. So I think as a parent, Sam means well, but he has to realize that just as his wife is sacrificing to keep this child alive, he has to cut down on his work hours to be able to be there for her.
And then we find out as well that Sam is in a meeting with a certain Mrs. Jallo who shows up late. He's getting calls. He doesn't pay attention to the calls, only to find out later that it was his wife who had been reaching out and something bad has happened to Ken, Sam's father. What has happened? In a nutshell, what has happened? And then what will happen after that? Because if it would be given a certain responsibility.
Yes, so basically Ken is attacked by a stroke. So, which would render part of his body paralyzed,
and even more dangerously while driving.
Yes,
that's when.
Yes, yes, and subsequently, Efe, that will be another task on Efe. So she would have to deal with Olivia and also deal with Ken. But before I even touch more on that, I would want to raise a divergent opinion to what Letitia said regarding. Regarding, what it takes to be a mother. You know, as a lady, Efe wasn't forced into the marriage in first place. She explored her chances and decided to settle in. And you, Efe, were also given birth to by a woman. So you should know that how Olivia is treating you is the same way you would have been, you met her to your mom. So it's just a matter of adjusting time. And you see, that is...
But does it come naturally? I'll have to hold you there, because I remember this line where she says, nothing prepares you for childbirth. Like, you give birth, you know, they tell you, but nothing can prepare you for the reality. Not the man, not the woman. Nothing prepares you. The nights spent when the child is just bawling his or her lungs out and you can't do anything, you want to sleep it. Nothing prepares you for that.
Yeah, and even I think she would have needed a therapist. You know, there are some people who have a phobia for some of these things. I know of certain women personally. There's a woman I know of, she can't even look at her daughter in the eye. When she sees the baby's eye, she has some, some feelings. So it could also be a phobia. And then I think they should have redressed it. They should have looked for solutions.
But do you think Sam handled the situation well, especially bringing in Ken, his father? Now, if it was already burdened with Olivia, Liv, right? Then you say she should take care of your father who suffered a stroke. In the end, he even physically assaults Efe. He gives her a slap. He would have given her a second and all of that. Was she not right in being plaintive?
Yeah, she was. And then I think Sam could not have handled the situation otherwise, because Sam's mom was, on the loose. She was nowhere to be found. And I think Phoebe was now trying to work things out. So it isn't that there was any other person that could come and then take care of Ken.
Okay.
Auntie Dora is, Efe and Sewa's auntie, and she can't be brought in to take care of Ken. So, Sam there was nothing else he could do. And Sam, I think, was born in the UK. So apart from the dad, the sister Phoebe, and then the mom, there's no one, relatively close. So he had no option than to let Efe sit in.
Okay, hold on. This bit about not having an option, I disagree. Okay,
100%.
Because in the end, when you read that portion, there's something that also comes up about they're needing help.
Yes.
In other words, they could pay someone to do
Yes.
this. What do you think about that?
100%. You can't say he didn't have any option. That's your father. It's not her father. Fine, she's your wife, but she's supporting you. It's not her responsibility. And to add on top of that, she is in a crisis. She's a mother who doesn't know what she's doing with her child. You add on your father who is also sick. That leads her to her breaking point. So definitely, he could have gotten help. If it's my father, ultimately, if you have to leave work, if you have to do half days, whatever you have to do to take care of your father, if you don't want to pay for help, then you do it yourself. But I don't agree. No.
And all of this came to a head when you read pages 194 and 195. Part of it, I'm just going to read a small portion and then the rest of you tell the story. Oh God, no, she's back. Jamming a finger into the button, slapping a frantic palm on the metal. Open the doors, my baby. Open the doors, she yells. The words trip over each other, knocking against her teeth. The passengers look her way just as the train begins to move. Ma'am, you need to stand behind the yellow line. If it keeps banging, trying to prise open the doors while stumbling along beside the train. Ma'am, there'll be another train in 10 minutes. The voice is closer now. Miss, a hand yanks her from the doors and Efe crumbles. She smacks into the ground, eyes fixed on the disappearing train. She can hear herself screaming, senses the pack of frozen commuters silently gawking at her. Then she hears the impatient huff of the station attendant right above her, his breath hot on her scalp. Ma'am, please, could you just calm down? Did you leave something on board? Well, she struggles for a while before she's able to say, my daughter. And this is how bad the situation is. Yeah. She's tired. She's not slept for days. Yeah. And Olivia is crying on the train. In a bid to... She takes her eyes off slowly. She falls into sleep. Yeah. And before she realizes it's her stop, she gets off and then she remembers that what?
I left my baby on the...
She's left her baby. But what was the reaction? Again, what was Sam's reaction?
Sam was livid, I guess. In the beginning, he was in denial. He was like, there's no way my wife left her baby on the train. But then when it comes to a head, when he sees her and then realizes she doesn't have the baby, he cannot even comprehend. That is my problem with Sam. He cannot empathize. He cannot understand how she's gotten to the breaking point where she can leave a baby on the train.
And when you read that same page, at some point, she just says, I was alone. Paul, I was alone. Those 3 words, I was alone. In other words, she was dealing with all of this alone. Social welfare comes in. Now she looks like the big bad wolf, bad mother, and all of that. It's simply that she's exhausted. Putting yourself in her shoes, how would you have felt?
Yeah, you see, initially I was like, my initial comments, I was like, Efe has just come to, be a scapegoat, because it's like all blame has been on her from beginning to the end of it. But Ben, I tell you what, I also think Efe should be blamed, and blamed very well in this scenario, because no mother will forget her baby, no matter what. Even, see, the mobile phones...
Did she forget the baby?
She said that she forgot.
The point is, so she's exhausted.
Yes.
She has the baby. The baby is making a lot of noise in that cabin of the train. Some people are even forced to move away. Now, she falls into a little sleep, a bit deep, and then she hears the horn. It's her point to get off. Her instinct, she just gets off and momentarily realizes my baby is back in there. It could happen to anybody.
Yes.
The probability is very low, because a baby is more or less is part of you. So I'm yet to hear a story like this. So because
is Sam to blame for any of this? Do you think he's doing enough?
Sam, I think, yes, has done enough. And then you see, initially you were like, he could do something about it by taking the father somewhere to pay for, and then. But Sam, you notice that he doesn't love what he's doing as a lawyer. He's only doing it because he needs to make ends meet. He needs to put body and soul together.
The story doesn't say that, though. It doesn't make it appear
so when
if he needed him to earn a certain salary before she loved him. She loved him for him.
No, yeah, so I'm not talking about the love aspect. I'm talking of the aspect when Ken fell sick, suffering from a stroke, and I said there was nothing Sam could do. Okay, and you were like, he could seek help. And this help has to come with pecuniary, interest, has to come with funds. So at a point, Sam had to, you remember initially, they divided the tasks between themselves. And this is because Sam didn't even want, at a point, Efe was the one who asked Sam to go back to the cameras. Right. Sam, he didn't say he was doing this to make ends meet, but if you read the story, you notice that the main reason why he was still doing that, because he resigned.
So for you think it's justification enough? He was trying to take care of the family, so it's justified.
Certainly.
When his wife was exhausted, she simply couldn't deal with it. He wasn't getting her the help, as in employing someone, regardless of the money he was making, and he wasn't there to help.
She was alone.
You think it's okay?
Me, I think.
You think he's blameless?
Me, I think naturally there's a reason why God makes the child, attached to a mom until the child is weaned.
Okay.
So that is the time that that was the time the child should be with the mother, and it's a natural phenomenon. Okay. You don't expect Sam to be there with you all the time.
Let's also look at two different angles. One, Sam's own relationship with his mother, which is complex, strained, because she ran away, and it's interesting because Efe is on the way to running away when she gets pregnant a second time. Let's look at those two issues quickly.
I loved it. When I got to that point where he told his mother's story, it just explained everything that had happened, that his wife leaving.
It was like deja vu.
It was perfect. It was like, now I understand how Sam is so distraught, because this has happened to him before as a child and it's happening again. And I love the dichotomy of how his mother's story ended, how she was able to go out to seek the things that she missed out on, to put herself first after years of putting her family first. And then she was able to come back to them. But for his wife, then there was a different ending to that. So yeah, I loved how they contrasted those two stories.
But now let's look at this, because Efe becomes pregnant, and now Sam. So we are getting back into the present. Sam can't find his wife. His wife is in Ghana, but there's more to the story. What has she done?
Okay, so the reason she's left is that she is pregnant again the second time. And as much as she tries to explain to her husband how uneven the whole experience was for her, Sam is still obtuse, doesn't get it. So then she takes the plane to Ghana, and she is forced to take care of the baby. She gets rid of the pregnancy.
When you say she's forced, she makes the conscious decision.
No, she's forced to.
Together with Sewa, but she knew that Sam wouldn't support it.
Yes.
But she had seen this is what it took to take care of Olivia.
Exactly.
Sam was literally non-existent.
Yes.
And this is what it took me. It strained me mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yes.
I can't go through this again.
Yes.
But the choice to have an abortion.
Yeah, I'm not on board with her not telling Sam, because if you are a unit as a married couple, it's his baby also. So definitely he has to have a say in it. But then when I empathize with Efe, it's because of previous experience. All throughout the conversation of the second pregnancy, I can't believe that Sam is excited. He doesn't even one moment acknowledge that his wife is in distress. He just keeps saying, oh, we're having a baby, so exciting. And so I'm just like, all right, fine, then she has a reason to do what she has to do. Just do what you have to do. Yeah.
In the end, what happens? We have to wrap up. Of course, whenever we do this, we also encourage you to go out there and grab a copy of the book and read for yourself. We can't dilate on everything here. But in the end, what happens? She's had her abortion. She's back in Ghana. Sam follows her to Ghana, has an interaction with her, realizes it's a lost cause. But how does the story end? A minute each. I'll start with you, Paul.
The story ends on a very sad note, because Sam and Efe were now about to make up together, and Efe ended up in an accident, and it's so very unfortunate. And you see, what even makes it so touchy and unfortunate to me is the fact that Efe was unable to make up so well with Mame, the mom. Right. You know, they were still, everyone was still living with her, that she had aborted the pregnancy, that she had left, her husband, that she wasn't doing the job they wanted her to do. In fact, it was a very sad way to end. Okay. But then I think it will be a lesson to the mom and all those who also played role in blaming her. I think they finally had what they wanted, and then it will make it made the story settle. For
me, Sam gets to meet his mother after so long a time, and he finally gets to at least understand why she made the decisions she made. And now in that conversation, he gets to understand why his wife also made the decision that she made to leave. And so I love that they had that reconciliatory conversation. Unfortunately, they didn't get to live it out. But yeah, hopefully in Sam's next relationship, he does better as a father and a husband.
All right. Any lessons learned? One each, 30 seconds each.
Yes. The lessons I have learned, and that I would want to go out to the young, especially young ladies who would want to embark on studies in the diaspora, is that they should know that it comes with a lot of pressure when you go. There are a lot of expectations from family, there are a lot of expectations from friends, and then that you should not actually kowtow to that. You have to do what you love. So it's a book I think all people should, especially young ladies, those who want to live in the diaspora must have and then read. And
the young men too. Yes. Letitia, final word.
For me, it was being responsible for the decisions that you make. Like you said, Efe was not forced, and she let herself get into a marriage that she wasn't prepared for, giving birth to a child she wasn't prepared for. And I think that once you make those decisions, you have to be responsible for them. And so even though Sam's mother got to come back and make up for her mistakes, Efe never got that opportunity. So if you're going to put yourself first before your family, there are repercussions. And yeah, you have to be ready for the decisions that you make.
Okay, lessons learned. I will leave you with this last segment, our reading quote, figure of speech and poem, and then it's a wrap. So the reading quote for you today comes from Aldous Huxley from Brave New World. And he says this: Words can be like x-rays if you use them properly. They will go through anything. You read and you are pierced. Words can be like x-rays if you use them properly. They'll go through anything. You read and you are pierced. Now, for our figure of speech today, it's a bit of a rare one. It's called inclusio, spelled I-N-C-L-U-S-I-O. What is an inclusio? It's the bracketing of a passage of text with the same set of words at the start and at the end. Now, here's what I mean. An example. We will prevail, though they will throw all their great might at us, though we will be hard-pressed, we will prevail. That's an example of inclusio. You can read more about it and check out details as you broaden your knowledge about these expressions or figures of speech. But to end, I selected a poem by Hohoba Mansell, and this is the poem titled Hard Choices. It's a short one. A path is laid out ahead. It forks before your feet. A decision filled with dread, uncertain of what you'll meet. A game full of chance, of many hidden pitfalls. To find true romance, dare you risk losing all? Choices never easy to make. Fog seems to cloud your way. You fear making a mistake, of gambling and losing the day. But life is full of hard choices, and risk is part of the game. Be brave. Ignore doubting voices. Make the choice. Life won't be the same. And that's by Hohoba Mansell, Hard Choices. I'd like to say a big thank you to Letitia Opong and Paul Honkani for joining me to review this wonderful book, Rootless, by Krystle Zara-Appiah. Hopefully, you can go and grab a copy of this book. Thank you so much for joining, and I look forward to the next time.